We are live here. This is Impact Money. We talk money in the morning. We're reaching a huge distribution there in Texas and Louisiana. Rise and shine to you guys. The sun's coming up soon. And we are growing on the Smart Money Culture TV network with the big fly Mackie. And we'll be going over things soon. The markets are looking Bitcoin's going down a bit. We have the CPAC going on in Washington, D.C., and we have a couple friends over there. And Matthew Dixon will bring on the stocks 20 minutes after the hour. How you doing, Bruce?
Great, David. How about yourself? Good morning, Texas. Good morning, Louisiana. Thanks for joining us on your TVs. Good morning, X, and on LinkedIn and everywhere else. Pretty interesting day we have set up. Of course, the markets are, we'll see what Matt has to say about them, but they certainly seem to be in a bit of a pullback here. Interesting article I was reading this morning on NVIDIA. And, I was actually expecting NVIDIA to massacre the markets. A lot of people were, because their earnings were going to come out, and it was this and it was that. And then the earnings came out and they were great. And trillions pumped into the market on that news. So pretty interesting. Our markets are very manipulated. I think they've always been very manipulated. They're probably more now than ever because everything is, right? Everything is more manipulated. We're also more tuned into it, right? We do our show every morning here.
I would just consider that business as usual in Wall Street.
It's business as usual, absolutely. When I was a kid, we used to think that these things didn't happen like this, right? It was there was none of this stuff that went on. And then, of course, as you get older, you realize that that's the way it works. It has gotten worse, though, I think, or they don't hide it as much. I don't know which, but it has been pretty interesting. Of course, we have CPAC going on. CPAC here in Washington D.C., and I plan to actually. We'll see. I may do the afternoon show from out there. We'll see how that goes, but. You have the El Salvador president out there, and he gave such a great speech last night. Really interesting. Called out George Soros. These people mentioned Soros as well. Trump is going to speak there. You have a lot of people going on. We did identify that as an important conference leading up to it, and so. We'll see what we can do on coverage for that. I know our good man Randy is out there already. He's working it as he always does, right? So other things, of course, SpaceX has hit the moon. The first time in 50 years. We were on the moon, and of course.
They must have survived one of those. They survived the solar flare.
Something, right? AT&T still has not said anything about that solar flare. It's kind of interesting. They
you sounded a lot. You sounded a lot like mainstream media yesterday.
Who, me or them? Oh, with the solar flare. Well, I mean, it could have been a solar flare. I mean, let's be honest. It could have been a solar flare. I don't know. Apparently, they just did a Control-Alt-Delete. It was the official word. They just turned the whole system off, and they turned it on again, and it worked. And nice. They're saying, I guess, they're kind of shrugging. It could have been an attack. Could not been an attack. They don't know.
Sometimes rebooting is the best answer.
We know that, right? And then, of course, you had Marco Rubio come out and say, "This is nothing. Just wait till China does this to us." I really think, guys, that China is like the boogeyman. I don't think that China wants to invade us. I think China wants to take our money. They want to build things and sell them to us. And that's my take on China. I think that people like to say China, 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 because they like to get you riled up about stuff. but I don't think that China wants to invade us. I could be wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Anyways, but that is pretty interesting. Something happened. The gremlins got in the code or whatever with AT&T, right? And it took down service. I was out actually for a little bit. Once we got off the air, it was kind of interesting. So a couple things here from and his, how do you say his name anyway? Nayib Bukele. Maybe I'll.
They say globalism comes to die at CPAC. I'm here to tell you that in El Salvador, it's already dead. But if you want globalism to die here too, you must be willing to unapologetically fight against everything and everyone that stands for it. Fight for your freedoms. Fight for your rights. The next president of the United States must not only win an election, he must have the vision, the will, and the courage to do whatever it takes. And above all, he must be able to identify the underlying forces that will conspire against him. These dark forces are already taking over your country. You may not see it yet, but it's already happening. You don't see it as clearly because people are designed to see linear changes, not exponential ones. We don't always recognize how fast a problem can multiply and spiral out of control. The problem is much like the metaphor of the boiling frog. Once the water boils, it's already too late. People fail to see these things. It's our nature. Just like the frog, people become complacent and they don't realize how bad things are getting until it's too late.
You know, the guy, he certainly has, I watched some of his speeches before. The guy is really impassioned. He's jailed so many people. I mean, they had a big problem. Someone was saying the other day on my X account, I'm going to El Salvador. It's safe now, or this and that. Be careful, okay? Guys, like, you know, yeah, he's doing a great job over there, but there's a big element over there. David and I have been throughout a lot of these places in Central and South America, as well as the Caribbean and stuff like that. And you know, you need to be careful. Okay, you need to be careful. That's one of the things. There's always fun about traveling together. At least they'd have their hands full with the two of us, right? Yeah, funny places. You know, people, they drive around with machetes in their car, or you know, all times. Yeah, shotguns. Yeah, remember the gas stations? Where was that? The Dominican. They pull into the gas station in the Dominican, and there's the guy sitting there, and he's basically like an old good old boy, except he's Dominican, right? He's got a big old loaded shotgun.
Yeah.
Yeah, you ain't getting any
Don't
gas
steal
from
any
daddy.
gas.
Pay it, okay? That's right. That's right. You ain't getting any gas here without paying. You got that? And of course, he had his sons or whoever else there too, and you know they were all packing heat too. Speaking of that, Louisiana, I know we're on TV in Louisiana, and Louisiana has just passed a bill, just put legislation onto the floor to reenact constitutional carry. So you have a constitutional right to carry arms. And what we've done is different corporations and legislation and everything else, and they've made it illegal to carry, even though you have a constitutional right to. So they're putting that back, and you can conceal carry is the big thing. A lot of states you can carry now, but you have to have it on your outside, which is a little offensive to most people. You know, you go to the store, you get your thing on the holster there, and people are kind of like, ooh, you know, what's going on here? You know, so it can be a little disconcerting. But anyway, so they hold 2/3 of the majority in the House, and they're kind of expecting that to pass. And the governor has said, the GOP rather holds 2/3 majority of the House. and they are expecting that to pass. So that'll be pretty interesting. We are about to go into commercial on Smart Money Culture TV. So if you are watching us on your TV there, we really appreciate you. And we're going to be back on the other side of this commercial break. You're going to hear from our good man, Fly Mackey. And we're going to be back on the other side of the commercial break with our good friend, Matt Dixon. And just as we cut away over here, just to tell you a little bit about Fly Mackey and what we're doing with the Smart Money Culture Network. We're growing this network by leaps and bounds. We are signal reaching about 7 million people right now in Texas and Louisiana. About 2.5 million of those are you guys who watch local television. And we plan to grow that number to 50 million by, it was the end of the year. Now he's saying July. I don't know. We'll see. Fly Mackey, the man with the plan.
Yeah.
So good stuff. So we're on commercial now there, but of course we'll continue. We'll bring on Matt in a second. I wanted to continue with some of this CPAC coverage because this is, man, I'll tell you what, I'm impressed. My man Matt Schlapp there. Of course, I'm a local Washingtonian, so we all know each other. Matt Schlapp, he has been through the ringer. Okay, and if you do anything good, man, they go after you. There's and nobody's perfect. I don't know really. I have no idea really. But they certainly have gone after him.
They say
I'm going to play this other clip here because this is interesting.
Are trying to instate public policy. Unelected bureaucrats are trying to instate public policy. Who elected them? They don't have a democratic mandate. If they want a seat in the table, they should run for office. Let the people vote. It will not be a pretty sight for them if the elections are free and fair. I mean, who elected Soros to dictate public policy and laws? Why does he feel entitled to impose his agenda? Let me tell you something. Soros and his cronies hit a brick wall in El Salvador.
Soros and his cronies, they hit a brick wall in El Salvador, he says. I mean, yeah, the guy is really something else. And of course, he bought Bitcoin. They went long on Bitcoin. He started buying Bitcoin. I don't know what price it was, maybe in the 20s or something like that. But I think they're in Bitcoin around there. And he put a lot of their money towards Bitcoin. And it was a big gamble, of course. And it has paid off now in spades. He's really turning the country around. I mean, it is amazing, actually. It is nothing short of amazing to watch what he has done with that country. It's very impressive.
Yeah, tremendous work and a lot of guts.
Tremendous work and a lot of guts. You're right, David. Tremendous work and a lot of guts. Okay, so I wanted to cover this real quick too, and then we're going to bring in the great Matt Dixon. But I wanted to show this. We landed on the moon. This is one of the official videos that came out to put out here. Look at this. Look at this.
And we are transmitting. So, all stations, this is Mission Director on IM1. We can confirm, without a doubt, is our equipment is on the surface of the moon, and we are transmitting.
All right, I don't know why. Here we go.
This is Mission Director on IM1. We can confirm, without a doubt, is our equipment is on the surface of the moon, and we are transmitting. So, congratulations, IM team. We'll see how much more we can get from that.
What an outstanding effort. I know this was a nail biter, but we are on the surface, and we are transmitting. And welcome to the moon.
Houston, Odysseus has found his new home.
An excellent call, and this is our team of Intuitive Machines mechanics and their families, their friends, everyone who has sacrificed so much to make it this far. How about that call, Gary? That was something else, a faint signal. Now it's time to work on refining that signal. But Dr. Tim Crane, our mission director today, making the call. Odysseus has a new home.
a wonderful and truly amazing moment to celebrate.
The U.S. has landed on the moon once again. We're still expecting an image. We expect that to come down sometime in the future, especially as we look towards some high-resolution images.
Congratulations, like you said, Josh, are flooding into the teams that made this happen. Really sets a tone
For the American leadership.
Science and data gathering is already underway.
Gary, it's been quite a journey. That will wrap up our coverage of Intuitive Machines' IM1 mission. Thanks for joining us.
I mean, pretty cool, right? I mean, what little boy's dream was it not to go to the moon, right?
Yeah. Yep, for sure.
I still want to go to the moon, and I'm not a little boy anymore. All right, just loading up exactly what time I'm going to put on this post here. Let's bring on our good friend Matt Dixon. Matt, we are live on Smart Money Culture TV. Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for joining us on Smart Money Culture TV. Matt Dixon, how are you, sir?
I'm good, thank you. Good morning. What an amazing achievement with those guys landing on the moon.
Really cool, right?
I mean, what really strikes me, though, is, I mean, it was a major achievement and they see it as a major achievement. They still had a few glitches, but, you know, managed to pull it off. Absolutely amazing. Genuine congratulations there. But, you know, we're supposed to have landed on the moon more than 50 years ago. Just think about how technology has moved on.
It's pretty crazy, right? I mean, it's crazy that it took us so long to get back. I mean, you hear these guys, we never landed on the moon. The Earth's flat. You know, all these guys on and on and on. And you really I don't think the Earth's flat. Everything appears to be curved to me. I mean, it looks like everything is kind of, it always made sense to me that everything is circular, rocks. And I don't know, things look circular to me. But we didn't go back for 50 years. That's crazy. Why didn't we go back? Why didn't we go back? It's so strange. But there we are back. And of course, the great Elon Musk leading the way with his SpaceX rocket to put us there. What a guy. I mean, you just got to step back and just look at what this guy is doing around the world, on the net, in AI, in space, and just think, I don't know if there's ever been anybody in the history of in the last few hundred years anyway that compares.
Yeah, I mean, definitely he has the talent. So obviously he's not the brains behind putting that there, but he has some real, he's able to bring dreams to reality. So
Matt says he's not the brains behind putting that there, but he is able to bring dreams to reality. I like how you followed that one up. That was great.
Yeah. I mean, let's focus on the second bit then, because it's good to be positive. Yeah. I mean, coming to the investment, I always like to start with I often start with an investment quote, and there's one actually from Benjamin Franklin. And he says, an investment in knowledge pays the best interest. So that actually goes hand in hand with our course that we're running at LearnHowToTrade.Club.
Yes.
So I won't harp on about it, but genuinely it is true. I mean, what I'm saying about Benjamin Franklin, to say that is genuinely true. An investment in knowledge pays the best interest. I mean, that really rings true to me. So, so I'll jump into sharing my screen as usual, because we've got some nice charts. There's one fantastic one today that we'll look at, which is actually at an all-time high. And it kind of, again, ties in with what Elon Musk is doing. And, you said about AI. I trust, again, you can see my screen share there with the chart that I'm sharing.
Gotcha. Yep.
Yeah. So we'll start, as I often do, with the S&P 500, the SPX. And this was a chart I showed yesterday. And I showed this bearish divergence. And it was actually, I had this line a bit lower down here somewhere, and the price continued higher. But I did say yesterday that prices can continue higher, and you would never consider it as a reversal signal until you start to see some other indications. And we've seen the first indication this morning with this red candle, and it's actually a bearish engulfing candle. It engulfs the previous little green candle there. So potentially that's the first signs of a potential turn. So you would not have sold yesterday's signal, because what I said was that this bearish divergence was just flashing up a warning signal to watch out for a potential sell. But you will never do that sell until you get some other indication that the sell is beginning to take place. So now you have that bearish engulfing candle there, and you could expand it out just to show it, a little bit bigger there, but you can see that there. And then you would potentially, the top of there is potentially now your risk. So if you were going to trade this, I'm not suggesting you do, because we don't actually give direct advice, but if you're going to trade it, you put your risk or your stop loss just above there, and potentially now you could move it, and you move it even if it's $1 into profit. And then if the price does break through and go against you, then you've lost nothing. There was enough movement down for you to do that, to protect your profit. And if price moves down, then there's massive potential for downside, because this potentially is an A down, some kind of extended B up, and then potentially a C down to take us probably below this A wave. So there's a lot of potential downside there, and we have a very tight risk reward. So the potential losses are very small. So just starting with the S&P 500, and it tends to correlate with crypto assets. So I'll just jump across. I won't go into DXY just yet, dollar index, but we can visit that if we need to. This is Bitcoin. It appears to be undergoing some sort of sideways consolidation. So there is no impulsive move to the downside, because these are all overlapping waves. And remember, we've talked about that before. When the waves are overlapping, see, the last impulsive waves we had without overlap were to the upside. Now we're seeing a corrective move to the downside. And I got it labeled here as a small wave 3, small wave 4. So we would expect there to be a wave 5 to the upside at some point. That's how it appears at the moment, because when you see these corrective moves to the downside, it just means that the price is just treading water, just treading out some time there until the next impulsive move to the upside. And it'll probably take a little bit of news or some, maybe it'll take, maybe the thin market over the weekend. And if you get a big buyer coming in, or maybe some more news from the ETFs, maybe get, another big tranche of money coming into the ETFs. So whatever the news might be, it's just looking as though next major move is to the upside. But if we're to sort of scroll out a little bit on there, we can now begin to see that this is working on a 5-wave move to the upside, a bigger 5-wave move to the upside, which is potentially finished. And I've said for some time ago at previous shows that there is some serious overhead resistance at around the 55,000 level. I've got it here at 55.7. So we need to watch out for that, because that would be, if this is a wave 4 consolidation sideways, we would expect a final push to the upside. And that will give us, so you can see here from this wave 4 in blue, and we can scroll out again in a moment, but within this final 5th wave, we've got a red wave 1, red wave 2, red wave 3, extended exactly 1.618 times wave 1. So again, perfect Fibonacci golden ratio. You don't get better. It's just absolutely textbook stuff. And then we get the ABC wave 4 down, and we're working on the 5th wave. So potentially, even within this 5th of the 5th wave so far, it's actually 5th of a 5th of a 5th, as you can see here, 555. 5th of the 5th of the 5th of a C wave. It sounds crazy, but it's because it's all fractals, waves within waves. And so the final little 5th wave here is made up of blue wave 1, blue wave 2, blue wave 3, and then a blue wave 4. And it's actually fulfilling another rule or guideline of Elliott wave, that with wave 2 and wave 4 are both corrective waves. In other words, they're not the impulsive strong waves, they're corrective waves slightly down against the overall trend. But there is a guideline which says that the 2nd wave and the 4th wave should differ in their waveform. So you don't get a simple ABC correction in wave 2 and the same simple ABC correction in wave 4. If you see a flat correction, what's called a flat correction, which is a 335 correction in wave 2, then you would see some different kind of correction in wave 4. Possibly, if you see a flat correction in wave 2, it could be a zigzag, it could be a triangle, it could be a combination in wave 4. So you'll generally see a different wave formation in wave 4. And wave 4s also tend to be a little bit more drawn out sideways than the wave 2. So this is actually fulfilling the rule of what they call the rule of alternation between wave 2 and wave 4. And so not only do you see alternation in wave form, the difference in the form between wave 2 and wave 4, you also often see a difference in the time it takes to traverse wave 2 and wave 4. So wave 4 here is taking much longer than it took for wave 2. You can see wave 2 was very, very quick. Wave 4 has been drawn out. So you see a difference in wave form. You see a difference in the time of the wave. And you often also see a difference in the price traversed. So the wave 2, again, was a very small price between wave 1 and 2 there. So a very small price deviation there, and yet a much larger price range for wave 4. So we're seeing 3 different types of alternation, and that is actually a really good guideline within Elliott Wave, and it tells you that you're probably on the right track within your wave count. And so with it being a wave 4, we probably expect a wave 5 to the upside. So we've already had a larger wave 4, and then we're going to wave 5 to the upside. And if we were to scroll out even further, and we can actually see that we're in a much larger 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're, as I say, we're in actual fractals here. But what we can see is that we're still seeing, and if we drew this line, it's on a slightly different time frame, we're still seeing slight wave divergence here, slight bearish divergence with high highs on price. And if you drew the line properly, we're still seeing slightly lower highs on RSI. And we can see that on all the different time frames. Divergences are coming into play. So at some point, it's going to actually impact the price, and we will see a potential turn. So I'm suspecting, as I say, from 55,000, I think that could well be the turning point. So I wouldn't dare go short on this asset at this point in time. And I wouldn't jump into long either, because I never personally go into long or go into a position when we're on the final wave of a particular cycle, because sometimes things can take you by surprise, and maybe you missed something. There's never 100% certainty, as I said yesterday. So I wouldn't be taking a new position at this stage, but I'd be watching it and just seeing if we really do push up towards that 55 level. And if we did, then we have good risk reward. And if we've smashed through it, then I suspect we'd be coming back and retesting. So either way, there's trades to be had. And as I say, trading is not about predicting the future. Trading is about getting your risk reward right. Now, one I wanted to look at, which I've actually called my trade of the day, really, or chart of the day, I should say, really, not trade of the day, is one that we focused on yesterday. But I love this asset. I've traded it a lot recently. When I say recently, in the past few months, I've traded it very, very actively. So this again shows the fractal nature of Elliott Wave and of asset prices. So again, as I'm scrolling out, we can see more and more that, there you see, Solana chart of the day. So we can actually see that we have, even if I scroll down a bit further, we have a much larger wave 1 up, wave 2 down. Wave 3 is made up itself of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And there's Fibonacci relationships within all of that. And then we appear to be having a wave 4 correction, which looks to me at the moment as though we have basically a WXY down, some kind of ABC higher. We mentioned this yesterday. And I do think that we're probably going to push down in a 4th wave. Again, we're not at a really good risk reward place. We're kind of in the middle, so in no man's land a little bit. So I wouldn't necessarily be jumping into new trades. But if we did reach down in a wave 4, because this is a correction down, it's not impulsive, and a correction higher, and I'm expecting a correction down. If we see that, then we actually really have a good setup for a long trade. And if we do see this, I'm not saying we will, but if we see it, and I'm waiting for it ideally, I'll be looking for the extension of where this wave will go to, and it's possibly around the 70. If we reach around there, we've got great risk reward, real good potential upside then, because I don't think we've seen the top of the markets, as I said yesterday. I think there's a long way to come. And talking about some amazing assets, here's one of those AI tokens that we talked about. You talked about Elon Musk having the foresight, be able to realize his dreams and so on. But here's one amazing token, AGIX, Singularity Net. It's one amazing AI token, and it's one of those tokens which is here showing an all-time high. So I charted this token, or I've charted it a lot for a long time now. When it was down at the bottom, we looked at support and resistance. And support, we drew this support in, and again, this is just another little tip for traders. When you see a previous spike low, it often acts as support. And so when we were bumping around with price here, I could see it was corrective. As I said before, it was choppy movement, overlapping movement. So this was all corrective. But I said we're likely to retest support here, which is exactly what we did. We tested this support precisely, and then price started to take off to the upside. And it's really taken off to the upside. So once we broke this resistance, which was, again, spike highs here, once we broke it, we spiked above it, we retested it down here. That was the time to jump in. Your risk reward was amazing. You could jump in with a stop loss just below here with some upside, and then you can basically run a trailing stop or guarantee a small profit. You were never stopped out if you guaranteed even a small profit here. And the gains here have been somewhere in the region of 5x
Nice.
because from around 15 cents here to 75 cents here. So you're talking about 5x gains on that trade. Even if you jumped in a little bit higher when we broke resistance, which is more realistic, you're still talking almost 4x gain on your investment. And this has happened very, very quickly. When it broke this, we're talking about October last year. In fact, the end of October last year. And so we're only November, December, January, February, 4 months on. So 4x your investment. And we've all known that AI is the theme of the year. It's the really exciting theme right now. And, Singularity is one of those leading, AGIX is one of those leading AI tokens. So it's done amazingly. We probably need to be a little bit careful, although it's not on this time frame. It's probably on the 4-hour time frame that we're seeing. I'd have to check which time frame it is that we're actually seeing divergence. It's not on this time frame either, but there is a particular time frame. Here it is, I think. Maybe. Yeah, this is it. So on the weekly time frame, we're now seeing some bearish divergence in place. So again, it's not one that I'd say is a sell signal. It's just a warning that if you see a candle, which or another signal which tells you there's a potential reversal. So I'm just telling you again, like we said with the S&P yesterday, the warning signs are there that we're already seeing potential bearish divergence, but you don't act on that until you see a confirming signal. So if today, or obviously this is a weekly time frame. So if, say, for example, the next week, this would be a long-term trade. If next week you see a bearish candle of some sort, maybe some sort of shooting star or something like that, then or a hangman candlestick, then potentially you look at a reversal here. But right now you wouldn't. But there is just, as I say, some warning sign flashing there. But it's been amazing, as I say, what an amazing opportunity for people. And it's one of those tokens which is at all-time high. And there's not many tokens can say that have been around for now almost a couple of years. There's not many tokens actually showing all-time highs. So that's been an amazing one. We're still seeing that choppiness on XRP. As I said yesterday, very choppy. There's no particular clear signals here. So although XRP, there's potential for some movement to the upside, it's really choppy. There's no clear signal. You can take a position and basically maybe a long-term huddle position because if XRP takes off, it's one of those tokens which can be really aggressive to the upside. As we saw from here, just on this one candle here, for example, the low of the candle was 46 cents, the high of the candle was 93 cents. So you're talking there more than 2x in just one candle, one weekly candle. So in 1 week, you could 2x your money on this pump here. That particular pump, if you remember, was actually when we got the news out of the SEC court case. But even regardless of that, we see some massive candles, and this is kind of very, very reminiscent of what XRP does. Very typical of what XRP does. You see some massive candles both on the upside with this green candle here. So just looking at this particular candle again, we're seeing here a low of 61 cents, a high of $1.50. So again, you're talking 2.5x your money in one single week. But then to the downside, on this one, we saw a high of 170 and a low of 65. So you see just as aggressive to the downside, and then again some massive upside and downside candles. So it's not one for the faint-hearted, but if you get your positioning right on it, and you need to look at a range of indicators, look at different time frames to try to come to some, do your DD properly on it, and potentially if you catch it right, there's some really good gains to be had. And Litecoin, again, on the weekly, you can see we're in a very much a consolidation area. I mean, if I remove just these little indicators here, we can see we're really in a bit of a consolidation area. So again, there's no really clear signals there. But again, Litecoin is one that can have some big green and red candles, both upside and downside. But we need to, again, look at different timeframes to see where we're going with this consolidation. But once we're complete, I do suspect there's some really good upside to be had on Litecoin. But with this choppiness here, and actually currently we're moving down, there may still be a little bit more downside there to be had. And I think finally, unless there's anything in particular, we'll probably look at ICP once again, because this is looking at the long term. And we've mentioned this many times before, but this is looking at the all-time high of ICP of around $600, bearing in mind we're trading right now at $12. I understand that this was not exactly a genuine price. This was actually pumped up on the FTX platform using perpetual futures. Even before the token was actually live, it was there using, perpetual futures. They're basically they're an instrument. They're not the underlying asset. And so the price was actually pumped up massively on ICP, and then we got this massive dump. I mean, just look at that, from $600 in 1 week, $630 to $200. So horrendous fall. And just look at it now. It looks as though there's no movement. So you can either really open it out, or you can actually use a logarithmic scale, which actually gives you more, it gives you a better perspective, to be honest. And again, if I just move, there's some really interesting Fibonacci relationships in there, but I'll just remove those so you can see the price more clearly. So from those lows, we have, as you're aware, moved up. And again, if we looked at a logarithmic timescale, or if we opened up the time frames a little bit, especially if you looked at daily and started to open that up, there's some amazing Fibonacci relationships that we're seeing on the way up. But it looks at the moment as though potentially we've got 3 waves down here, but also we don't appear to moving impulsively to the upside. So I do suspect that potentially we could see, because this is corrective, I suspect we're going to see new highs above this local high here of $16 and odd. But because it's corrective up as well, I do suspect we've got another move down. So like we showed with Solana, it looks as though we've got some further movement down before we then begin to move to all-time highs. So it's really interesting. These assets aren't all correlated. We've seen the difference between AGIX, which is currently at all-time highs, and these other assets which aren't, but it does look as though they will head to all-time highs. So who knows where AGIX is going to go. So I like to look at the ratios between different assets and the ones which gain more. And we looked at that on probably first or second show we ever looked at. And some tokens actually have a much higher potential movement. And Solana was one of those. And we've always said, if the market's going up, Solana's a great one. But the same goes for example, for AGIX here. If the market's going up, it's an amazing gainer. And some of the other tokens don't go up as much, and they actually even sometimes go down more, but don't go up as much. So it helps me in selecting my chosen assets, because I want the ones that have the greatest upside and the minimal downside. And that, again, is something we're doing within eBay. We're looking at building the most efficient portfolios. So for the level of risk you want to take, the eBay technology can help you structure the perfect portfolio for the level of risk you want to take to give you the very maximum return possible for that level of risk. So that's something, and again, I know we're going to do that, and I keep promising, but we will do that, and we'll go through the eBay platform and exactly how to use it, at a future show, hopefully, Bruce.
For sure. That's we're big fans of the eBay platform. And these types of indicators are very good for people. If you go, guys, to of course learnhowtotrade.club, you can sign up, use the coupon code TradeSmart10 and get a 10% discount on that, and trade with us, trade with Matt, learn how you're doing, learn how to do this. If you can add, they say $600 a month extra. Well, that would just cover inflation probably. But anyway, they used to say $600 a month extra would, change people's lives. And so if you're able to do that with trading, then that's interesting.
Yeah,
and not do it where it totally encompasses your whole life. And that's, I think, what a lot of people miss. And the way that you trade is a much more methodical way. Okay, I'm going to trade like this. This is now I have, okay, I'm not going to make this trade now. I'm going to wait until it's validated. Now I'm going to make the trade. Now, maybe you didn't make the trade at the exact height or the exact bottom because you waited for it to be validated, but you also didn't lose any money or any sleep. And that's a very important part about trading.
Yeah, actually, it is probably, if you're to ask me, we've discussed about the important aspects of trading. Probably the most important aspect of trading for manual traders is psychology and patience. So we all talk about fear and greed, but actually the controlling thing there is actually patience. And I think that's the one thing you see. If you're not patient, you may be a trader who has some really good trades and you make a lot of money. But without that patience, you will end up losing money, because patience is the key. And it means, as Bruce said, absolutely rightly said, that you don't necessarily get in at the very best price always, but that's not what you're aiming to do. You're aiming to get in at the safest price when you see some confirmation, and when you can very quickly protect your trade, so that no matter what happens in the world, if we do see a black swan event or whatever, you're actually protected, and you're not going to have sleepless nights. I know people, when they come into trading, they have alarms set that warn them when prices go here and there. They have sleepless nights and so on. And you can't do that long term. It's not sustainable. So for me, it's about taking a conservative, well-planned, patient approach.
Amazing. Well, another great show, Matt. Go ahead. What are you gonna?
No, just finally, I jumped over the dollar index.
Yes.
I still think that potentially we potentially have higher to go. We've got a really good hammer candlestick here, which is this green candle here. This is called a hammer candle, telling us a potential movement higher to come. It's actually not very clear, because there's actually a bit of choppiness on both these waves and even choppiness on this wave. So it's not 100% clear, but looking at the overall movement, I do think that this is probably an A wave, a B wave, and we're looking at a C wave higher. So not many people are expecting this, but I do think we're still going to see some more upward movement on dollar index. As I say, this particular candle, and we are looking at a daily candlestick here, so it's a reasonable time frame to look at. This, for example, just looking at candles, this one is called a doji candle, basically where the price tries higher, the price tries lower, fails both ways, and ends up right in the middle. That's called a doji, and that's indicative of an undecided market. And we can see that with the sideways movement. So every candlestick really has a story to tell. and we can look at individual candlesticks, and we're looking at combinations of candlesticks, and they all have a particular story to tell. And these candlestick patterns originated out of Japan many, many years ago with rice trading, and that's how the candlestick, how an analysis of candlesticks started. But we've taken it to another level, and they're not 100%. And again, the more indicators you get to confirm each other, the better. But candlesticks are a great way, I find, to confirm other indicators, because they tell you actually what's happening in the market. They're actually a real picture telling you, for example, that doji, the price tried higher, the price tried lower, stuck in the middle. In other words, it's undecided. And that's precisely what happened. The price moved sideways because it just couldn't decide. And then a hammer candlestick, the price tested lower. The price actually ended up at the top of the candle or near the top of the candle. Actually, a green candlestick, slight green candlestick. That's actually a positive sign in the market telling you price is likely to go higher. Now, no candlestick's 100%, but they're more than 50%. So they're telling you, they're giving you valuable information when combined with others. And if you combine more than 50% on a number of indicators together, then you get way above 50% average that you need. You need more than 50% to make a profit. So you combine indicators properly, and that's what you're getting.
Good stuff. Yeah, it's going to be pretty interesting. I think I'll tell you, the inflation that we feel here in the U.S. is crazy. I was reading. I actually put a post out this morning that now food is taking up over 11% of normal people's paychecks just to eat.
Yeah, and these, with core inflation, they take out the things that we really spend money on, and that's one way they're massaging the figures. So
they're massaging the figures. Exactly.
It's all very well telling you what inflation is when it's the things that you don't spend your money on. You want to know what you're spending day to day, the price of those things, is it going up or down? So that's what we need to know.
That is what we need.
Just to get a picture of where we're at and what we need to do to actually break even and have a good living, as you say. How much money do we need to make, whether it's through jobs, whether it's through trading, whatever it might be. We just need some transparency about where we're sat.
Yes, indeed. Well, another fantastic show, Matt. I really love the charting and everything else. I know we have a lot of feedback as well at the station. Everybody really likes it. I hope that you have a great weekend. You have some fun things planned?
Looking forward to a rest. It's been a busy week, but I enjoy being on the show. It's a pleasure. Thank you guys for having me. Thank you, everybody, for listening, and thank you for the feedback, positive feedback. Thank you for those who are getting involved in the trading course. So all positives, and great. Thank you to you all.
Awesome. Well, my best to the team there at Eve, and if you see our friend Ahmed, make sure to tell him I said hi. David and I will be over there soon to see everybody.
That'll be great. Look forward to that. Thank you, David. Thank you, Bruce.
Cheers.
Bye for now.
Cheers.
Well, so there you have it, folks. We have really the markets are. I think they're in that moment, kind of, right, where they're deciding. They're deciding right now which way we're gonna go. They're deciding. It looks like.
I think you're right. They're deciding. They're not so much accumulating, even.
Right. They're deciding. It could go up. It could be further upside. But they could just turn. So that's all pretty interesting. I think that we're gonna have another interesting few days here. I guess I will be down there at CPAC a little bit. Maybe I'll I really want to score the El Salvadorian president. I know that you interviewed the beauty queen that they have for a ambassador. She's a legit beauty queen. I mean, she is.
And you're jealous?
No, well, I mean, yeah, you got to interview the ambassador. Yeah, of course. I mean, I don't get jealous much, right? I'm not really jealous, but I'm just actually saying it was great. Must have been fun to interview her.
Oh yeah, of course. It was great.
We should play that interview maybe in our afternoon show. David interviewed the ambassador of El Salvador during the government blockchain organization.
Milena Mayora.
Yes, Milena Mayora. David only follows like 7 people on his X account, but he follows her.
Yeah.
Well, pretty interesting what they've done there. You know, this Bitcoin is political. They used to tell me back in the early days, Bruce, don't get political. Don't get political. And it was very hard for me. Obviously, I'm a political person. But then I really realized that it's pretty much impossible to not be political with when you're talking about Bitcoin, when you're talking about US dollars, when you're talking about monetary policy, because our politics has actually been taken over. Like money and Bitcoin. I wouldn't say that Bitcoin is money. Bitcoin is something different. It's not money. It's technology, but it's being used as a way to trade. And actually, the truth is that in our Constitution, I talk about this quite often, we had a mandate to use gold or silver to trade. We weren't supposed to ever use paper money. We weren't supposed to use paper money. That was a constitutional mandate. And that was to keep the central bankers at bay. And it actually is the greenbacks back in 1864. It was the greenbacks was the first fiat monetary fiat money that was brought in. It wasn't backed by anything, and it was printed. And they changed that constitutional mandate back in 1864. Of course, we were told our whole lives that changed later with Nixon and everything else. The gold standard started in 1900. That was a legislative act that went through, and that started in 1900. Lasted until 1933, but the fact of the matter was they were actually minting 10 to 1 even during that time. So if you're like, well, how did the inflation, why was the inflation happening so much? And as we were financing World War I, which is, of course, we had the central bank, the Federal Reserve started in the 1913, same year as the IRS. As we were financing World War I, we were actually, even though we were still, quote unquote, on this gold standard, which had only been there since 1900, we were printing 10 to 1. So we were already, it wasn't fiat in its classical sense where it wasn't tied really to anything, but it was 10 to 1. And then, of course, they took us off that gold standard. Gold standard ended in 1933. And then, of course, Nixon took us completely off, and you couldn't trade it in for gold at all. And that was in 1971. But that monetary system, that really the overthrow of our government happened a number of times over the years. And we have been bled dry, really bled dry over the last 100 years, 80, 90, 100 years, since the 110 years, since the Federal Reserve started. They've been slowly taking that money away, taxing you without telling you, taxing you without representation. The Federal Reserve, their 2% inflation is a tax. And as we talked about earlier, it's a much higher tax. David, thank you so much for coming on here. I know you have a full weekend ahead of you. I will be, I guess, on location at CPAC here in a little bit. I'd like to get a nap. Annie's been killing me along with these morning shows, but it has been a lot of fun. Guys, we will see you soon.
There you go. Cheers, man.
Your voice is powerful. When combined with social engagement, it's a force for change. Decentralized media paired with free speech is the catalyst for an empowered world and a unified, invaluable ecosystem. Join Global Boost, become a champion of free speech, and help to reshape the future of media.